That money's leaving town, friends. It's going off with kids. It's going to brokerage houses. It's going to the tax man. It's leaving town. It's not staying here unless we do something. And the motto, I was in Syracuse, New York, speaking to the Community Foundation a few months ago. Their motto is help to everybody, help us keep money local. That's a great motto. Help us keep money local. Some money, that 5%, whatever it is, help us keep money local. That is a great idea because it will all leave town unless those rare people have their children move back to town. And that's pretty darn rare in Bloomington, IN. That's pretty rare. So our goal is to be very proactive and to suggest things. And you have to believe, because it's been my whole career, that people are better off with a gift plan than without one. And that's why they repeat the experience. That's why the gift annuities are the most repeatable gift type in America today, because if I have that $5 million estate, if I have $1 million estate and I've got a non-traditional partner, why wouldn't I be taking some of those retirement dollars I get that I'm paying tax on each year? Why wouldn't I fund some of those gift annuities to make sure me and my partner are taken care of when I'm no longer here? Get some tax breaks for doing it. Why wouldn't I be doing that? That's so smart. So life stage gifts are where it's happened. Here's what I always see in the fundraising world. Would you rather have one bequest when someone dies or a multiple of life stage gifts over a life that actually do something for them? Because they will become the biggest fans and proponents. When the Community Foundation does gift annuities, Katie barred the door, Pretty in Purple, always Scott Walters, always Pretty in Purple, yeah. That money stays local but does good things for them. So let's talk a little bit about some of these simpler plans. And this handout I've given you, you will read the whole thing and say, an attorney never could have written this because I understand every word. In this handout, I've really hit the beneficiary designations because honestly, we ought to suggest that to every person in town. And say, would you consider including us for a modest percentage on a retirement plan because it's a percent of what's left after your lifetime uses? And the most heavily taxed things to your kids, and you can do it yourself. You can go home and do it yourself today. That is a winner, and you have to suggest it over and over and over because the vast majority of people think the retirement plan is included in the $5.43 million that's untaxed. That's not true. Yes?
Into a trust for you?
Are you my little plant? Are you? Gosh, I don't even know you, and now we'll have to be best of buds because that's true. Let's talk about the person over at campus or the Lilly or Cummins person who has a significant retirement plan, $1 million. That is very common. People at Ivy Tech, I bet, if they've been in academia for a long time, there can be a lot of dollars over there in those plans. There is the charitable remainder trust that Scott talked about. The plan that's running off the shelf with people with a lot of retirement plans is that I can actually, here's my story about that. I was in northern Indiana, blue collar worker, they have $750,000 in their retirement plans. Big, because they want to retire early. And I said, wow, that's a great goal. They're younger than me. They're in their early 50s, I think, very young. I said, that's great, great, great. You have each other as the beneficiary, and that won't be a problem. But when one of you is gone, Katie, bar the door. Because if those of us who are married, it takes both Jeff and me to be gone before, the flurry of taxes happen. Because I've got a spouse. Those of us who are married have a second life before danger happens. Okay, danger, because they are just like us in terms of taxes, exactly like us. But when one of the partners goes or there's a bad health or whatever, I say, watch out, watch out, watch out, because you could lose all that $750,000. It's very common because I say to every person I sit down and plan with, you will never know the cumulative tax rate on retirement plans. You will never. It just keeps going up. It keeps going up. It's the most expensive thing you have, but you will never know how bad it is because it changes all the time. Last year, they put another 5% tax on it. It is a changing, movable target. But I said to her, it's the most expensive thing you'll leave. So I said, what you can do is, if, God forbid, something happens to one of you or there's bad health, run, not walk back in to see me. Because that charitable remainder trust, they can put inside their will So I don't have to do a trust now. I don't have to go out and fund a trust and find a trust. I can say inside my will, if I leave everything to my husband, Jeff. But if my husband, Jeff, is gone, and if I have retirement plan assets, I direct, and I have to change my beneficiary designations. I have to do that. I have to change that on those retirement plans because it has to go to a taxable entity or a non-taxable. But I can say on my retirement plans, the trustee of the charitable remainder trust created my last will and testament. That's tax exempt. So long way of saying, in my will, I could say all to Jeff, but if Jeff is gone, and if my retirement plans are at least, fill in the blank, $500,000, then I direct a charitable remainder trust, and here are the terms. 5% for 20 years to my 3 children, and at the end goes to charity. I can divert all my taxes into that and pay no taxes, have all my $1, $2, $3 million retirement plan, if I had it, if I've done it correctly, with the beneficiary designation, the language in my will, I can have that all go tax exempt into a trust to pay my kids' income for 20 years. And after 20 years off a market-driven trust, sorry kids, it's over. Now it goes to charity. Why 20 years? Because those charitable remainder trusts can last for a term of, for life or a term of years not to exceed 20. And my kids are babies. I'm a baby at 61. I am a baby in trust terms. I am a baby. So it's not until the 70s anymore that the numbers start to look good because we live so long. We live so long anymore. So yes, I can preserve all of that highly taxed asset and put it into a charitable trust funded tax exempt if I do it right and give my kids income from the grave for 20 years off a market-driven trust. That is brilliant. When I talk to people about that, they say, sign me up. I love that because I also believe this concept of always waiting and giving kids inheritance at the second death is pretty darn foolish because we live so long. You know, my grandmother lived to 97 and a half. When she died, my dad inherited at age 79. What did that mean? He never closed her estate. It's a lot of stress at 79. You know, so this concept that we have to do that is just so silly. And these charitable plans allow people to say, honey, I could do something for the kids too. I could do something for you. I can mix and match. I could do all sorts of things. Now, let me give you a couple of more suggestions that haven't been mentioned today, and this one is in the materials. You know, my number one choice always with everybody, I say to everybody, even if you sit by me on a plane, if you have a retirement plan, the best way always to support charities you care about are percentages as a beneficiary designation, either before or after your spouse. Sometimes it's before. I met with a guy in Indiana. He has a $15 million estate. Only $1 million of that is a retirement plan. He is a fairly young man, younger than me. He has 2 incredibly well-educated sons that have gone off to incredible careers. I said to him, do you think your wife will need that $1 million retirement plan? He looks at his portfolio and he says, she has $14 million other. I hope not. I said, well, you can talk to her about that. And if she needs it, she gets it, because tax-wise, she gets it. But I said, honestly, you might think if she doesn't need it, you might give that in percentages to charities and take her off it altogether. Because if she outlives you 20 years, 84% of the time we wives survive our husband. 84% of the time. If she survives 20 years, if you've made $1 million gift, that means she and the boys will get invited every single year and they can talk about you forever. Otherwise, if she lives 20 years, 25 years, when they get your $1 million, they won't know who you are. He said, oh my gosh, you're right. I said, this would be really fun for them to do, is to honor you every single year, because if you're $1 million donor, I promise you, there'll be something about you every single year. I promise you. Do what you want, but you ought to think about that. You know, the tax thing says you could leave it to her and not be taxed. But maybe the public acclaim for the family, he said, that is a really cool idea. See what I mean? We can suggest also, but we have to be kind of proactive. So everybody think about that modest percentage designation on a retirement plan, and you can do it today. It's very important. One of the others that is mentioned in here, though, is retained life estate. And that, again, the Community Foundation can help you with that, because I hope you know there's some youngsters in this room, but Bloomington has a PCB issue here. Thank you, Westinghouse, for contaminating us so many decades ago. So retained life estate